Hello, DeMatha Nation. My name is Corey Puffett, DeMatha class of 2010 and current faculty member. A few weeks ago, we interviewed a few stags who were in the mix for the NFL draft, and we promised then that we would return and interview some DeMatha people outside of the athletic arena. So here we are. We hope to continue doing this as a way to keep the DeMatha community engaged as we continue to manage during this pandemic. These next several interviews include graduates who, in their own special ways during this crisis, are trying to make a difference. I'm joined today by staff member Ben Flary, class of 2011, who will be helping me interview these graduates. Today's guest is Peter Holsberg. Hey, Pete, it's great to have you.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
I'm really excited to get to talk with you and some of our other DeMatha community members who have stepped up in various ways through this pandemic. And you're an 86 grad. And for those who may not be aware, you've spent the past month and a half serenading us on a daily basis with the help of your trumpet and on occasion your dog Coltrane. You started those recordings back on March 21st, and it's almost serendipitous that exactly 2 years before that, on March 21st, 2018, you were on DeMatha's campus as the school honored John Mitchell for 41 years of service as a musical instructor at the school. Can you talk a little bit about that event and also about your time at DeMatha and especially your involvement in our music program?
Well, that event was a great event because it honored a really, truly great man. One of the great music teachers, I think, anywhere in the country, forever. And he was the primary reason I came to DeMatha. I met him when I was in middle school. He conducted all-state band, and I was playing in it. And I ended up coming to DeMatha. I came late. I was only there for my senior year, but it was an incredible year for me, and a year that I think was it really set myself up for success for the rest of my life, to be in the environment at DeMatha. And John Mitchell has been a mentor to me for many, many years, ever since then, since I've become a music teacher myself. And at the music program at DeMatha, I basically, it's kind of a funny story, and people will appreciate this, because when I went to DeMatha, I sat down with John Moylan to get my schedule. And the school that I was going to go to, I think I was going to take 4 music classes, gym and English. And I sat down with John Moylan, and he said, no, you're not going to do that here. And he put me in everything, AP calculus. It was like, I was like, whoa, he really blew me away. And I came into the music program, and I got to play in the wind ensemble with Mr. Mitchell, and he gave me the opportunity to conduct the concert band. And that was my first chance ever really getting to conduct. I also took music theory and played in the jazz ensemble, and was an all-state band, and we did a big trip to Boston. And it really, the level of expectation was what really set me up when I went to college. I think it was really vital for me to get really serious about things. And I always tell my own students now the story of Buck Offit, who was my English teacher. Here I'm a new kid in a school, and he gave his whole speech about how you could fail English for the year in the first quarter. And I failed, I think, the first 2 or 3 quizzes that he gave me, and he read my name out to the entire class as someone who was a candidate to fail English for the year in the first quarter. And what's funny about it is that Buck ended up, I will say he's one of the best teachers I've ever had. I've done a lot of school since DeMatha, but really was one of the best teachers I ever had. And one of the highlights that I had was I got to conduct the DeMatha Wind Ensemble with a piece I wrote about 10 years ago or so. And I was conducting the piece, and I looked up, and standing in the back right behind the timpani was Buck, with his arms crossed, just looking at me like, I remember this guy. He was a candidate to fail English for the year in the first quarter. So it all worked out. But I'm very grateful for all the great teachers that I had there. I had a lot of the legendary teachers, and met friends that I've kept in touch with ever since.
Yeah, I don't think I would get away with singling out one of my students as a candidate to fail my class these days. I was going to ask how you felt DeMatha prepared you. I think you pretty much answered that already.
Well, it was funny because when I went to college, one of the things that was really disappointing was it wasn't a huge step up in terms of like the musicianship. Playing in the DeMatha Wind Ensemble, we played at a very high level, and so that was like for me, and the wanting to work and wanting to put in the time, all of those things to do extra, were all things that had really been ingrained in me during my year at DeMatha.
Now, as somebody, to be honest, who doesn't listen to very much jazz, I haven't recognized many of the tunes you've played, although I've enjoyed every single one of them very much. Those videos they're unbelievable. The two songs that are kind of most recognizable for me are, I know you did Amazing Grace and then Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Now, how do you select the songs you play each day when you don't get specific requests?
Well, there's just so many great songs that have been written over the course of history, and a lot of them have been played by jazz musicians, and I just like to pick tunes that have really good melodies, because that's what I'm trying to do. And the honest truth is, you see all these videos that have come out and everything. I try to go as low tech as possible. It's literally like me on my phone. I don't put any backing tracks. I'm not playing, adding 4 or 5 layers to it. It's really it's to share a little bit of humanity, and these are like the great artifacts of the great songs that are a part of who we are as people. And so trying to just connect with that with just a great melody is really what I'm trying to do, and just share with people something that maybe takes them away from thinking about this situation for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I've enjoyed those videos very much. Is there a specific song that's your favorite to play? And if so, why is that your favorite?
Well, it's kind of funny because it's sort of like asking which child is your favorite. It depends from day to day. I like a lot of tunes because of people I've heard play them. There's a great album that Clifford Brown did called Clifford Brown with Strings, and every one of those tunes he just plays so beautifully. And what I really like is simplicity with them. And I had to say, being here in New York, and I do a lot of work with jazz at Lincoln Center, they're really big on Duke Ellington. And Duke Ellington was someone who, I think he like when I was in high school and going to college, it was sort of, passé to do Duke Ellington. And he's had a huge renaissance, partly because Jazz at Lincoln Center has really championed his music. And to hear what somebody can do with a melody that's very simple, but very beautiful, and that's what I like. I think that are the best ones are the ones that are really simple, and just speak to people.
Now, your first recording back on March 21st was for the West End Blues Challenge. Can you explain for the folks at home what that challenge is? So
it seemed like these ice bucket challenge. Remember that from a couple of years ago?
I do.
It's like all these trumpet players wanted to be in on this thing here, So the guy who runs, Todd Stoll is his name. He runs the Jazz at Lincoln Center Education Department. He put it out to do this. And there's also, Louis Armstrong actually lived in New York, in Queens. And so in conjunction with the Louis Armstrong House and then and Jazz at Lincoln Center, all these hotshot trumpet players did their take on West End Blues, and West End Blues was a very famous trumpet solo that Louis Armstrong did, and it starts out with this hot cadenza in the beginning of it, and it was like sort of one of those times where the trumpet like broke out as a jazz instrument, and so Todd challenged everybody to do it. And so a lot of guys did it. And then the guy who runs a museum, who's a friend of mine, said, well, we did one Louis Armstrong tune. There's lots of great Louis Armstrong. So I started doing other Louis Armstrong tunes. And then all of a sudden, people started liking it and telling me, oh, well, you got to keep doing this. So then I just kept doing more and more. And so that's sort of the genesis of what it all came out of. That was the beginning was the West End Blues.
Now you stuck with Louis Armstrong for a few days before I believe your mother requested Amazing Grace, and it seems ever since then your Facebook videos have sort of taken off. Now this could be a simple case of an internet challenge taking off, but it seems to me that there's a deeper inspiration for you as you've created this daily tradition. If that is the case, what is that deeper inspiration, Pete?
Well, I can say the thing with Amazing Grace was that I did play it at my father's funeral. He passed away in December of 2018, and so I played that at the funeral, and that was always something that I would play at church. And a lot of people really connected with that particular video, and so. Like I said, I think that music in many ways can be therapeutic, and it's been good for me to share, and it's been really great to hear people who I haven't even heard from back to when I was in grammar school, like saying, oh, this I look forward to listening to this every day for my my 3 minutes. I turn it on and so I do think there's a connection with all of us, and music is the language that speaks to everyone.
Before we let you go for the day, we've had, or you've had quite a career in music, and I don't think we can get to all of your stops along the way, which include the Berklee School and St. Benedict's Preparatory School in New Jersey, but you have a full plate right now with all the hats that you currently wear. You're the Director of Instrumental Music at Talent Unlimited High School. You serve on the faculties of Nyack College and Teachers College Columbia University. You're the Director of the Youth Jazz Philharmonic. How do you find the time to wear so many hats and spare a few minutes each day to record another piece for all of us on Facebook?
Well, what I would say is I've been really blessed because I have a lot of opportunity as a musician, and one of the things that's really good for me now is that I have these jobs that can help to sustain me. Because whether you guys know or not, but there's a lot of musicians who are having a hard time, guys, Broadway show musicians, because none of that is going on. They're all unemployed, and so I've been really blessed, and I also tend to be someone who does well when I'm doing a lot of things, and I enjoy to do a lot of things because they all have their little thing that's a little bit different. Working with the Jazz at Lincoln Center, the Philharmonic there, I get to be up in front of a full studio orchestra and work with them week after week on the weekends, and teaching college students is kind of fun. Teaching high school students is also it's something that I've enjoyed, and I still love to play my trumpet. So I would play it every day anyways, and so this is just a really easy way that's organic for me to try to give back, and to share with other people. And that's I learned from the best, in the DeMatha music department. Mr. Roper was a young man when I was at DeMatha, and John Mitchell and all the great music teachers there. I think you'll find a lot of people like that. That's what I also say about the faculty at DeMatha is just people, very dedicated teachers. It's kind of comes with the business. We didn't really get in it for the money, and that's what's good is that give and take is always a really great way to energize yourself.
Absolutely.
Now, Peter, we'll leave you with this one. What would you say is the most fulfilling part of your work in music education?
Well, I would say really for me in music education, it's having the chance to expose students to music and just see what happens, the first time somebody listens to a John Coltrane, or the first time that they get to play something and do it at a really high level. That's what I was really exposed to at DeMatha in the wind ensemble, was we played, music that was really, really difficult, and we played it really, really well. And the feeling when you have just been able to really accomplish something that's worth it is really amazing. And I love to see that for my students. when they are able to fulfill their dreams and really accomplish things. It's an amazing thing, and it really helps to feed you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Pete. I really appreciate you coming on with me and Ben. I know the DeMatha community is very appreciative of being able to hear from you and some of our other graduates coming up in the coming days. But keep doing what you're doing. We love it. We want more of it. We need more of it. And thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate coming here and one DeMatha all the way, right?
Of course.
One DeMatha.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Hello, DeMatha family. Thank you for joining me and Ben Fleury for this series of interviews celebrating DeMatha alumni who are using their skills to help their communities through this pandemic. We hope to continue producing these interviews for our community, so if you or anybody you know is a DeMatha alum and are doing something to help your community during this crisis, please contact me or Ben Fleury. Our email addresses are at the bottom of your screen and in the YouTube video description. We'd love to hear from you and have a conversation with you for the DeMatha community as we celebrate all of the things, big and small, we are doing to help each other through this difficult time.